Hello, my name is Samantha Kovacic, and welcome to my exhibition, Within Pain. Pain is crucial to the human experience, yet no matter how many times you're hurt, things that make us uncomfortable make us want to look away. Even in art, we find this discomfort repulsive and even meaningless. Yet what is it that we find so discomforting, and why should we even care? This exhibition seeks to answer these questions by showing the truth within unpleasant imagery. The art, in a way, looks back at us. And through this connection forged between ourselves and the artist, our worlds become bigger, and we take with us a sense of understanding and empathy. When I first started coming up with this exhibition, I knew that I was going to have to include a surrealist. The first one to come to mind was Salvador Dali. You may recognize his name from his famous painting, A Persistence of Memory. However, I think that The Great Masturbator, painted in 1929, is far more disturbing to look at. It's strangely erotic, with the woman's head against the man's crotch, yet horrifying, with the twisted face, the ants, and the grasshopper, the last of which Dali had always feared as a child. This imagery actually comes from Dali's conflicting feelings of sex, as he had obsessive sexual fantasies, yet the thought of intercourse caused him a lot of anxiety. We feel this clash of erotic tension and anxiety through the painting, putting us in that same uncomfortable and disturbed position as the artist while we're viewing it. And that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say the art looks back at us. Egon Schiele was known for his rather unique form of figure drawing and self-portraits, constantly drawing himself in a similar style, twisted, with dark features, bruised skin, and an almost sexual tension to each one. These are actually a reflection of Schiele's relentless angst and the self-reflection that he explored over and over again through these figure drawings. His depiction of himself in these uncomfortable, exaggerated positions and shapes shows that constant self-reflection really isn't that pretty. We see an ugliness in ourselves, and Schiele didn't flinch away from this hurt, but rather embraced it through his drawings. You've probably seen Francis Bacon's study after Velázquez's portrait of Pope Innocent X. The title comes from, well, a portrait by Diego Velázquez of Pope Innocent X. Francis Bacon studied this painting many times, but this one is arguably his best-known version of the painting. It was painted only a few years after the end of the Second World War, and it's perhaps a depiction of its impact on the world and how deeply society was shaken. The Pope had once been a symbol of authority, but he's now depicted in what looks to be a cage, his skin ghostly purple, screaming as if in agony. It takes us into the chaotic aftermath of the Second World War and the complete overturn of authority that came in its wake. Things that had existed before were now rendered meaningless after the immense suffering inflicted on humanity. In the theme of World War II, we have 1939 by Hans Feibusch. Instead of the raw chaos of the aftermath that Bacon depicted, 1939 shows the great tragedy that was caused by the war. However, this was actually painted in the first year of the war. It wasn't about the outbreak, but rather Feibusch's prediction on how it would impact humanity. As we know, his prediction was correct. The war was devastating and brought with it more human suffering than any other conflict in history. It's this suffering that makes this piece so uncomfortable to look at, with its two living figures tormented with grief over their dead companion. We feel their grief, and the grief of the world in the years after the war. Some years ago, I saw this series of self-portraits by William Utermohlen, and they really stuck with me through all of that time. He was a fairly successful artist in the 20th century, but was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 1995. While he was in the hospital, he continued to draw in an effort to understand himself and what was happening in his mind as the disease progressed. This is a self-portrait of him drawn in 1967 for reference, and this is a compilation of self-portraits he made starting in 1995 and ending in 2000, with the last one being one of the last drawings he ever made before his death in 2007. We see the progression and deterioration of his awareness, and even his familiarity with his own face. It's an agonizing glimpse into the world of a real person, not only losing their grip on reality, but slowly dying. And in that last sketch particularly, we can feel his death. I was not the only one so affected by these portraits. A man by the name of James Leland Kirby, under the name The Caretaker, created a 6-part long, 6.5-hour long music album, A apparently inspired by Utermullen's portraits, called Everywhere at the End of Time. I've listened to this project in its entirety, and not only is it the inspiration for this exhibition, but probably one of the most impactful art experiences of my life. It's a different kind of interpretation of dementia, from someone not suffering themselves, but interested in its effect on memory. Each part represents one of the 7 stages of dementia, and you can hear the deterioration of memory and the mind as the stages advance. It's an incredibly vivid experience, and not one I can fully describe in words, so we'll be listening to samples from stages 1, 4, and 6. This was just a glimpse of the full creation that Kirby composed. While the timestamp might be a little terrifying and the sounds incredibly overwhelming, it's worth a listen at some point in your life. To those interested, a link to the full project will be in the description of this video. Dementia is an extremely common disease, affecting millions across the world every year, and Kirby's creation gives a vivid understanding into what it's like to suffer through. And that brings us to the end of the exhibition. I hope that you leave here with an understanding of art that you may have ignored or been disgusted by before, and can go into other art that may make you feel uncomfortable with a new mindset. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through the discussion board or through my email. And thank you again so much for watching.